Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grip Block Foundation's weekly disc golf podcast. I'm Trevor with Konner today.
What up?
No Hunter, and you want to know why? Because he lost his voice.
Yeah, genuinely.
He genuinely
It was
can't
really
speak
funny.
above a whisper.
The entire USDGC, well, the entire last day of USDGC, he had to write a sign on the back of his lanyard that said, "I lost my voice at Topgolf last night."
Isn't that convenient? The most important podcast of the year, and he can't even speak.
People would walk up to the booth and he'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
But that's all right. You've got us, and we're going to talk about everything that went down at USDGC and the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship because we were there in person. And we're also going to talk about some of the chaos going on over at Dynamic Discs and all that, and some PDGA disciplinary updates.
Ooh.
Some boys in trouble.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but before all that, we got to tell you a little bit about the sponsors of today's episode. Firstly, Manscaped. Hey, everyone. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro's Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using our code GRIPBLOCK for 20% off plus free shipping. So what makes the Chairman Pro stand out? Well, it's about versatility and precision. It comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You have the skin-safe 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave when you're looking to go completely clean. And if the clean shave isn't your style, that's okay. Just switch to the skin-safe stubble trimmer to keep your stubble looking sharp and polished. Both heads are designed with skin-safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave, reducing redness or discomfort. A standout feature that truly differentiates the Chairman Pro from the rest is the Flex Adjust technology. This innovative technology ensures a superior shave by allowing both blades and the pivoting head to seamlessly adapt to the unique contours of your face and neck, helping you maintain great contact with your skin at every angle. The Chairman Pro, you can get it today and experience a shave that is smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code GRIPLOCKED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code GRIPLOCKED at manscaped.com. Today's show is also sponsored by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your #1 source for everything sports betting, with every stat, matchup breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. And it also has the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. You can check them out. Go to BetOnline and see all their social media at BetOnline. It's the handle is at BetOnline_AG. Link is in the description for all their stuff. All right. Thanks to BetOnline and Manscaped. Let's get into the USDGC and Throw Pink recap. So we were on site.
It was as wonderful as any year.
Yeah.
Really.
Beautiful weather.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather
Ambiance-wise, it was fantastic.
Yeah. Always a great event. Tons of fun to be down there. Shout out to everybody that we met down there. Got to see a bunch of the Foundation Nation, which is always a pleasure.
I swear the Vendors Village grows massively every year.
It did.
It's insane.
Yeah, I think a lot of us thought that attendance was maybe a little bit down. I don't know. So the thing is, I thought the Village was not as crowded as last year, but it is tough because there was more vendors. It was wider. And I will say, like, when I was walking in the gallery, I thought it was just as heavy as it ever was.
Yeah.
Like, the gallery was pretty intense.
I thought it was actually harder to see.
Well, and it also, and it also helped that the lead card the final day, which we'll get to, was stacked.
Yeah.
So you weren't distributing fans, because a lot of people, if they travel in for disc golf, especially if they're traveling from out of town, they want to watch their favorite player. And it just so happened that a lot of those players were on the lead card.
Almost every person I asked, who are you following today, it was always Simon.
Really?
Yes.
Well, in that case, the good news was I think they had time to follow Simon and then get the lead card. So that probably helps as well. I did hear a lot of Simons. Or usually
I asked that thinking MPO hasn't started yet, and they said I followed Simon.
Right.
So I was like, oh wow, that was
Well,
happened.
He just barely made the cut. But we will start with the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. We had Kristen Tatar taking it down. And this was a pretty smooth victory for her. Evelina was really her challenge. People kind of faded away as you got into the final round. But I think, in my opinion, I think Evelina was going to have to hold a lead to really put pressure on Kristen. And Kristen, I think her first round was her worst, but then from then on out, she was kind of in control and didn't take any just massive numbers and was playing some of her better golf that I've seen out of Kristen lately.
Yeah, I think that wasn't a surprise, but I mean, I always expect Kristen to win every tournament, but I mean, she hasn't been winning a ton lately.
Yeah, it was a pretty dominant win. Ended up being 6 strokes over Owen Scoggins. Owen kind of passed Evelina during that final round. Really, everybody else kind of got left in the dust. Players like Holland Hanley, disappointed not to see higher up leaderboard. Missy Gannon was a big one that I was looking to see do much better at this event. I think, like I said, this was Kristen. A lot of times when Kristen wins, I feel like the rest of the field is kind of coughing it up, but I feel like this was Kristen doing what she does at her very best, which was playing super, super clean, smart golf, keeping the disc in bounds,
which is just kind of what's going to win this tournament.
Right, and just kind of steamrolling everybody in that fashion, and that's why nobody could keep up with her. It became kind of a sprint, and nobody could keep that pace. So, great win for Kristen. I think, low drama during that final round. I mean, by the time... I don't remember how many holes in it was to where I was kind of like, this is over. But I think once they were through like the middle of the course, it just seemed like, okay, nobody's going to catch up to her. Like USDGC, you always can, you feel like you can hold on a little bit more than other events. And I say USDGC at Winthrop because of how many opportunities there are to blow up. But one thing in particular I'll mention this event is no wind. Like, literally, there was like a slight breeze the final day. Yeah. But I did not see a single shot that like wind was a dramatic
I feel like
factor.
it was pretty inconsistent because there would be some points where I felt like there were some pretty heavy gusts. So, but they were very unpredictable. Because like I saw Drew Gibson on the third day. He was thrown over the water on 5 and his disc got bodied.
But like by heavy gust, I mean the heaviest gust I might have felt was like 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's true.
I just know that.
But on that course, a 5 mile an hour wind could be the difference between OB or safe.
It could. I just know that every time we got up to a shot that I would normally consider, like I remember walking up to 17 for one, and then also like the top up on 14, and just looking at the flags and they're just hanging there and being like, this shot for these pros is so much easier when you don't have to think about the wind. Yeah. And I think that ended up attributing to not only Kristen's success, but we'll get to obviously the MPO and the USDGC, but kind of what played out there. The course was scoreable, and if you were playing clean, you weren't going to get as many bad breaks. Because the thing is, a lot of people talk about this course and like the rollways it can produce and like the weird skips. Anytime wind is in play, that just gets amplified because all of a sudden a disc that skips and shows the face of the disc, it can get blown in a gust. Or if a disc is rolling, it can get stood up by the wind. So I feel like this year I saw so many less bad breaks because of that. It was pretty straightforward.
I agree. It wasn't as much wind as there typically is out there. There was just like a few times where I was like, oh, dang, that. I think it was because it wasn't windy that whenever there was a little bit of wind, it felt like, oh, where the crap did that come from?
We were kind of looking for it to cool us off, honestly.
But it was weirdly hot out there. The temperature was not that high, but it was just.
It's the last couple years, you get high 70s and just like not a lot of wind and then no cloud cover whatsoever, and you just kind of bake out there.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
It really is. So yeah, Kristen Tatar, obviously there's still the Tour Championship, but this is definitely a strong finish for her. I know that this event is basically just an A tier for the women, but I think that's just kind of ridiculous.
Major in our hearts.
Yeah, it's a major in our hearts. You can always tell like it you can't go into an event like that with the amount of prestige and care that goes into it and the amount of fans in attendance and really be thinking, oh, this is just an A tier. And she also won $13,000, which doesn't hurt as well. So, yeah, a pretty dominant tournament and a great finish for Kristen Tatar. Kind of put a stamp on her season. It'd be even better if she can take home a big check next weekend at the Tour Championship. Moving on to the MPO and the USDGC. So, this was a pretty great event. The kind of the story was the duel going on between Ganon and Anthony Barella.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of came out of the gates and it wasn't really sure what the theme was going to be. I think it wasn't until round 2, Ganon shot really hot that day. AB was kind of AB had the exact same pace through his first 3 rounds. He shot 3 9-unders in a row,
which is insane.
So once Ganon kind of got himself up to the top of the leaderboard, it kind of was that feeling of like, okay, we know what Ganon is. He's just like so consistent at this point. Who is going to be able to continue to challenge him over 4 rounds at this demanding course?
Yeah.
And then through 3 rounds, Anthony Barela had a 1-stroke lead, and it was like, okay, all right. And in my mind, I expected if AB was going to crumble, it was going to happen earlier, because you can say what you want about it being a major, and I think that ended up being, what may have boiled up the pressure a little bit extra. But AB has won multiple times this season, and so it's not like he can't play down the stretch and win tournaments. It's not like that's what we were dealing with. So I thought once he got into the final round with the lead, I thought at least he was going to put up a pretty good fight. That was not exactly the case. He was basically hanging on by a thread the entire final round.
Yeah.
You could tell, when you watch Ganon Burr play disc golf, like even in the biggest scenarios, it just never looks like he's out of control.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he missed a few putts he probably should have, but his throw is just so effortless.
Yes.
He looks so calm and collected.
Yes, he looked very calm out there, and with AB, you could feel the pressure.
Yeah.
You could really
there was
feel
tension.
It. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's so intimidating.
Especially whenever Ganon had the box a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But then you would see Ganon throw OB, and then you really felt the pressure of AB needs this in bounds.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say is the thing about playing against Ganon is not only is he so robotic, but because of that, I think when he did, because he led a few times early in that round, he
opened the door.
And sometimes AB was able to capitalize. I'm trying to think of the first time that he let the door open. I
remember 9.
I know for sure one of the big ones was hole 9.
Yeah, Ganon threw too far long when OB.
Yeah, and then AB did the exact same thing.
And then AB did the exact. We were all ready for AB to take the stroke there,
right.
Maybe 2.
And then also Ganon got a few breaks that were decent early on. For instance, so you have hole 5. AB tries to attack the basket pretty aggressively, even though the pin was tucked. He skips and just goes OB, has a par putt, ends up making par. Ganon pulls his shot kind of wide, hits the branch, and it jumps him left, putting him to like 25 feet when he maybe would have been at 35. So that was a break. And then Ganon throws a forehand on hole 7. It hits the inside of the gate and skips forward towards the basket, parks him there. AB then steps up, having to match that, and pulls it, misses the Mando. So that was a huge swing. And then, I think with AB was like, okay, he would see Ganon make a mistake, and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's human. And you just know, like, I'm not going to get this many chances. And it just kept happening to where he wasn't able to take advantage. He did, he on 10 then, he makes the eagle. Ganon misses his putt. He gets one back. And every time he would get one back, it seemed like he would lose it pretty quickly. It's just like fighting against Ganon Burr this year when he has control of the tournament. Like the second you let him take the lead and he's got control, it's just so hard to beat him. The other story from the day was Calvin Heimberg making just an absurd chart. I believe he was 10 through 11, maybe 11 through 12. I can pull up the score here.
I believe he was 11 through 12.
I mean, just absolutely. I'll read off.
I remember hearing the whispers in the gallery of lead card, hearing people, you see Calvin's 11 through 12, 11 through 12.
Because it's funny because Ricky Wysocki had done this in round 3. He kind of made his charge. I think he had an 11 or 12 under in round 3, and he was the one who was sitting back where it was like, okay, if he does that again, he could be the guy to come from behind, because there was quite a bit of separation there. But it actually ended up being Calvin, who was even further back. He comes out with a par and then proceeds to go birdie, 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 par, birdie, eagle, birdie, birdie.
That's insane.
Which is absolutely nuts. He then bogeyed 13, but then birdied 14, and then ended up birding 17 and 18 to shoot a 13 under.
Crazy.
I'm not exactly sure what the course record is there. I think it's around that number. I want to say it's like 13, 14, somewhere in that range, but just a ballistic round, and to the point where
I would have put money on Ricky's 12 under being the hot round of the year, but I would have been wrong.
I can't remember. Let me check if Ricky was at 11 or 12. He was
at 12.
Yeah. Ricky basically had a similar stretch, but just didn't make a bogey during his. But yeah, Calvin, he really got himself to a place where if he doesn't make that bogey on 13 and he's able to get maybe one more hole, he puts even more pressure on Gannon. He got to a place where he was in the clubhouse, and unfortunately, because AB wasn't putting on pressure and Calvin was just like a little too late, really what it came down to was Gannon going into literally 14, because especially going into 15 because AB ended up bogeying 14. It just became like, okay, keep the disc in play, make pars. That's what it was. And when you have a player like Gannon and you're telling him you just need to keep it in play and make pars, that just felt inevitable. And that's just kind of what happened. He ended up coasting it out. So it ended up being Gannon in first, Calvin and AB tied in second, and then Ricky a few back in fourth place, Isaac Robinson in fifth. As you look through the leaderboard, some other stories. Drew Gibson ended up getting a top 10 after Monday qualifying. He actually was on lead card, I think, after during the second round, and then had not a great round. Was able to scrape himself up into the top 10, which is great.
I remember I was surprised whenever I saw him on lead card.
Yeah, some other notable ones. Simon Lizotte, I think he shot 5 over day one.
Yeah.
Fought super hard to make the cut.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then ended up in 17th place with an 8 under on the final day.
5 under on the first round and still ending up in top 20.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Seriously climbed the leaderboard. We had kind of a blast from the past going on for a little bit there with Nico LaCastro, who was just fighting on lead card right beside the rest. But then he kind of ended up faltering in the final couple days, finished it in inside the top 25, but I was explaining
to my whole family basically. It started with my wife inviting my parents because we were staying with them this weekend, and then where my whole family basically ended up at USDGC on the third day.
Yeah.
And none of them, all of them have played disc golf before. I played disc golf, used to play disc golf all the time with my dad, but nobody watches disc golf or keeps up with it or knows really much about the professional sport at all. So it was kind of fun wrangling them around and explaining to them why shots were difficult. It's not really that hard for somebody that doesn't know a lot about disc golf to watch a pro throw and think that's difficult.
Yeah.
Because it looks crazy.
Yeah.
But they ended up having a lot of fun. But I was explaining to them why this tournament is so great. Because I was like, you still, at the end of this round, because this was second to last day, you still will have no idea who's going to win this tournament.
Yeah.
And that was proven, so well because Nico was on the... I also told them we might be in for a good time watching this card. So Nico, going into the final day, was on lead card, and then Ricky, I believe, was on chase.
Going into the final day?
No, on the third day. I don't know where Ricky was, but it was a perfect example of Nico being on lead card, which again, I don't think nobody was expecting him to remain there.
Yeah, Rick wasn't on that card.
But no one was expecting Nico to remain there. So it's a little bit of a flawed example, but still he's on lead card, but then shoots even. And then Ricky, who's not on lead card, shoots 12 down and has a 12 stroke swing in a round, and that's just the stuff that can happen out there.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, definitely a lot of crazy swings. Unfortunately, Ganon Burr is immune to those.
Yes,
Ganon Burr is the one exception to the rule where at USDGC and
big swings don't really happen with Ganon.
He kind of eliminated the drama during that final round.
There was still enough. There was still drama.
It was
enough. Not in the last few holes.
Yeah.
Robbie C would say there was drama on the last few holes.
Yeah, the most, I would say because AB was just hanging on for dear life. We definitely didn't get the duel that we wanted. I would say the most dramatic thing going on was the fact that Calvin was climbing the
which
leaderboard.
Which is very fun.
Which was a great time. But Ganon definitely took a lot of the drama out of it.
He would have had to really make mistakes.
Right.
And
he just never looks like he's going to blow up.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
No.
But with 17... it always can happen, but whenever he knows he doesn't have to birdie it, he can just play safe. I don't see him missing. It's so open there on the right side.
There's just some players.
17 is really dramatic whenever you have to birdie it.
Well, just sticking the island is dramatic, but I'm just saying Ganon Burr is just not the guy that
missing the island.
Right. Yeah. It's if you look at the shots on that course during that week, at the end of the day, because the conditions were so similar, you can throw the exact same shot if it's working all 4 days. And if you followed Ganon enough, like hole 7 is example. All of his forehands, like he was throwing the forehand trying to get it into the gate on hole 7. He didn't go through the opening on all of them, but all of them were very, very close to each other. Like those repeatable shots that you need to be similar, he was executing so well, and it just doesn't phase him. So like going into 17, it just kind of became the normal thing for him. And yeah, Ganon Burr, man. I mean,
he was good out there.
He gets his second major of the season, and the greatest season of all time. I mean, that's my opinion. I think it's the greatest season of all time. He won 2 majors, 8 total wins. He is at $176,000 in earnings, which obviously there are things like inflation and purse increases, just an insane number even now. Second place in earnings this year was Ricky, coming in at $108,000, so quite a big jump there. But yeah, just an incredible season, and it'll just be interesting to see, like, I mean, now when you're looking at Ganon right now, it's just like the main question in my head is like, is this what we're going to be looking at for the next few years? Are guys going to be just scrapping to try and beat Ganon? Is he going to continue to dominate like this, or was this like some kind of peak for him? I don't know. I mean, he's so talented and he's so consistent.
Yeah, and he's pretty headstrong too.
Yeah, well, you have to be at his age to win.
I think that's like, and I don't know this. If I was just basing it off of this tournament. But I think that this does happen somewhat, but I don't want to make a full judgment on it. But I think that's AB's problem, is that he's not completely like his brain isn't a complete metal fortress, you know?
The major thing is tough, man. I mean, there's a reason Calvin is a few years older than AB, and like he still hasn't won one. Yeah. Like it is genuinely so hard, especially like going in 1-stroke lead. Like, yeah, it's very hard.
You've got to be good at throwing good shots after you see a bad shot, which I think is, I mean, that's a personality trait to be able to do that. Because it's sometimes if you're chasing somebody down and they throw a good shot, matching it isn't necessarily as hard because you kind of have that like vibe going. But whenever you see the person in front of you that you're chasing down throw a bad shot, sometimes it's even more pressure to have to, take the shot at the wounded animal, Yeah, no. And I think that's something that, like, obviously Paul would just kind of, if Paul was on your heels back in the day, one, he wasn't going to make a mistake, but also knowing the beast was behind you, people just start making mistakes, getting chased down by Paul. But it's definitely like a mental game where you've got to be able to throw a good shot whenever you see your opponent throw a bad shot. And some people, I think, are better at matching than they are like taking that step up.
Yeah, I think obviously Ganon is going to get a lot of Paul comparisons just with his dominance this year. And I think just the big difference is Paul played a lot from behind. And chased people down. Obviously, he dominated a lot of events wire to wire as well. Ganon Burr, for me, his identity out there is just somebody who, if you let him get in position at some point, especially if it's a longer tournament, if you let him get in the position to win, it's just very defeating trying to play against him. But speaking of Paul and Beth,
he had a pretty good round there.
Well, in a negative fashion, speaking of Paul McBeth.
He did have one good round.
He did okay during the tournament.
He shot 8 down on the third day, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he had an okay tournament. I think he was top 25, and he might have been top 20. He had an okay tournament, but not enough to continue a 13-year streak. He had a 13-year streak where he had a win that has now been snapped. Obviously, I don't know what they would consider the Tour Championship, but in my mind, that would not count as a win. It's very different.
That's crazy.
So 13-year streak to an end, winless. He had quite a few shots this year. I mean, you look back at Paul's season.
I don't even look at that as a sad thing. It's more just like a crazy accomplishment.
It is.
It's taken this
crazy.
long.
But I think Ricky has the same amount.
Wow.
I believe. I'd have to double check it, but I think we were tracking that, so I think Ricky continues it and will now beat Paul's streak like next year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you can fact check that, but I think that's what we had decided.
Ganon will record it.
He probably will. In any case, if you look back at Paul's season, it's not like he had the worst season. I mean, we can kind of track it. Let's see, where did he end up finishing? He ended up coming in. He took 10th place. He tied for 10th, so he had a pretty good event. And if you look back, especially towards the end of his season, we'll kind of go through what he had done. So he had 2nd at MVP, obviously had a chance to win that. 7th at GMC, 12th at D-Glow, 16th at Worlds, 8th at Ledgestone, 2nd at European Disc Golf Festival, 3rd at the European Open, 6th at Crocol. Like, you go back really from like Swedish Open on, like once he got over to Europe especially, he had some bad finish at the beginning of the year, but he had a pretty good season. He just couldn't get atop the podium. And it's just getting tougher and tougher to win. I think it'll be interesting to see next year, like, okay, is this just the Paul we're going to see now where he just kind of floats around the top 10, or will he be able to get all the way back into form and challenge for some more wins next year? Hopefully he has a good offseason, and that will be telling of that. But a big streak snapped for him.
There's a great opportunity open. That's where I feel like we always end up saying like, oh, is Paul back? But like he's never really been gone long enough to be back. Because he hasn't really he hasn't ever really been out of it.
Well, it
just feels like
his first winless season in 13 years.
That's what I'm saying. So now I feel like we officially had a season to where like now he has the opportunity to be back.
Now it's the real back label.
Yeah,
fair enough.
He was gone long enough to where now it's like Paul's back.
Yeah. I mean,
but only if he starts doing well, though.
It's true. Another thing to mention is USDGC had a cut this year. First time, I believe, is what they were telling me, and 2 people that made the cut, notably Barry Schultz made the cut, still can do it. And shout out to Nate Doss, ended up taking 37th place at this tournament.
That's awesome.
Dude, does not play. I don't even think he really plays tournaments. And he just he's just jolly old Nate Doss walking around having a great time, throwing good shots, keeping it in play. And
we saw him throw on 17, and he just looked like he was having a good time out there.
During the final round, he had 5 birdies in a row at one point.
He was definitely having the I'm happy to be here kind of vibe.
Yeah, he could still chuck it. And people forget Nate Doss, he kind of retired early, but he's still in his 30s, I believe, his late 30s now, and he can still get it done. So well done, Nate Doss.
I love that guy.
Somebody who did not make the cut is Cole Redallen. And listen, we've talked a lot about the people checking scores versus not checking scores thing, and usually it ends up that the guy who didn't check scores just wins anyways, and it doesn't matter. Well, listen. Cole Redallen posted on Instagram basically explaining that the reason he ended up missing the cut was because he wasn't checking scores and wasn't checking the leaderboard, I guess, to even know there was a cut line. Because there's not been one, but you probably should know that.
Yeah.
And then B, he got to 18 and ran a putt. I think it ended up going OB, and had he laid it up, he would have, because he was just in the mindset of I'm just trying to make a good putt to finish my round. It doesn't matter. That's what knocked him out of the cut.
Dang, that's crazy.
Tough one. Now, to be fair, if there wasn't a cut at a tournament and you're not in it, checking scores doesn't matter. That would be pretty rare, unless you're maybe on the edge of the cash line. But had you been looking at the leaderboard, you probably would have seen the green cut line that has put itself there.
That is crazy. So maybe at the beginning of 18, you should check.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it would have been, but. In any case, he admitted it. He said he was embarrassed about it. It is what it is.
I like Cole. He's
I like Cole
guy.
a lot.
He's a really sweet guy.
You only make that mistake once. I think we have a video coming out with Cole pretty soon. Actually,
we do. Yeah, we shot so many videos with pros lately before Worlds that it really made me feel like I knew a lot of the pros out there, and it was fun being able to be like, oh yeah, I like that guy. He's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
One of my faves, Ezra Robinson. I love that.
Connor's in love with.
I'm in love with Ezra Robinson.
Whenever he's around.
Because I think that he's
smitten.
just such a kind person.
He is,
and that's what does it for me the most.
Yeah,
and I love him.
Big kind guy.
I pointed him out to my dad. I was like, oh, that's that. I was that's like my
it's
favorite.
It's like your crush.
I was like, that's like my favorite
right
disc golf right there. I was like, Dad, do you approve? I'm just kidding. Can I have your blessing? But and then he came up to me, gave me a fist bump, and he's like, hey, what's up, man? I was like, no big deal, but we're real friends.
There you go.
Yeah. That was a disappointment from the tournament though. I was very sad to not see Isaac on lead card final day. He just didn't have that. He was on lead card third day, just didn't have that great of a round. I mean, he shot 6 down.
Yeah, he actually played well at final round. I think he ended up in 5th. He did okay. Yeah.
I was rooting for him. I wanted him to win.
He's gotten himself, like I said, everybody in that tournament just ran into the Ganon monster. It at this point, there's just not many times where Ganon is literally in the lead final day. I don't know if that's even happened at all this year and loses.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets into that spot and it's just curtains at that point. So that was USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. Great time as always. If you still have not been to this event and you live anywhere nearby, make sure to come next year. It's a lot of fun. We'll be out there as always. We always have so much fun. And it's just a great spectator experience.
Yeah, it's a very unique event. It can't really be recreated anywhere else on tour.
Yeah. It's a great gathering of the disc golf people.
Yeah,
it's a really good time. All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get into Trevor's trivia after these messages.
What messages, Trevor? You always say that. Hunter always says that, but then I don't ever hear anything.
That's so silly.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Little trivia for you.
Okay. Am I going to be good at this on my own? Did you think about that? I know you did.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, man, I developed this after I knew of Hunter's voiceless absence. So here's the thing. You know Innova pretty well, right?
I think so.
Yeah, you know plastic pretty well, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Innova on their website has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plastics that they list officially. So, I mean, I guess if you get into some of the crazy ones, they might not list it, but they have 13 on their website that they list. Okay. So we're going to see just how many you can name.
Do I have a time limit?
No.
Thank goodness.
Try to get all 13.
All right. I think I can get them.
Well, once you kind of stall out, then I'll give you the other ones. And if you're listening at home, see if you can get the ones that Konner can't.
All right. DX.
Yep.
XT.
Yep.
Nexus.
Let me just make sure I'm finding. It's actually Nexus might be too new. I don't know if they list it. Hold on, let me see.
Checkmate Innova.
This is obviously their site isn't always updated. They have some on here that are somewhat newer, I think, but they do not list Nexus. But that is one of their plastics. So totally fair.
So DX, I said XT Pro.
Yep.
KC.
They don't list KC specifically. They just have Pro.
Okay. Well, then I think that now it's like the old Mic Pro. I think they call like Tournament Blend or something like that now. Or
they don't list that either.
Or they called it something after when they still had some left. So never mind. Forgetting.
But be extensive. Continue to be extensive because you don't want to miss any.
They had it had like Tournament Pro or something like that. Whenever Macbeth was gone, but they still had some left. We got. Oh, we can go to Champ. Mm-hmm. Luster. They got that. Are they still claiming that?
I don't think they do. No.
Jolly Launcher.
No, just they have Champion.
Okay, and then we have Star.
Yep.
G Star.
Yep.
Metal Flake.
Yep. I do have Metal Flake.
What else do we have? How many did I get?
You currently have guessed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 13.
I'm only halfway there. Dang, that's crazy. Okay, so what other plastics would they have? I might be hitting a wall. I feel like I'm having a hard time thinking of stuff.
A lot of these are like variations of ones you've
variations.
Named.
Okay. Then we have Starlight.
Correct. Very
Blizzard.
Nice. Yes.
Well, technically Blizzard Champ, I guess is what it's called. R Pro.
There you go.
Yeti Pro.
They don't have Yeti Pro.
JK Pro.
They don't have that either. They don't have like the player ones.
You've
got one more baseline and then two premiums, and that's it.
Oh, I'm gonna be kicking myself. I know it. Okay. Glow.
There's the last baseline. Glow
DX. Glow DX. Glow DX.
Yeah, you gotta get I was
gonna go down the line. Glow DX. Glow Champ.
Yeah, those one of the premiums in the last baseline. There's one more plastic.
Premium. It is Shimmer Star.
No.
It is Halo.
No.
It is Splatter Star, whatever it's called. It is.
This is like a blend of plastic, a premium like blend. It's not just like a design function. Not super common anymore. You don't see a lot of people. You just don't want to see
EcoStar.
There it is. Good job.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, you do more than just the ones they had listed. Yeah, you proved yourself a scholar of the
Innova arts.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you your degree.
That was a fun game.
You have a degree in the Innova arts. Very well done, Konner. Okay.
I'm going to now test you.
Okay.
You have to list all of the plastics I'm just kidding. I was going to name some company that has like a ton of different plastics. You have to name all the Ledgestone plastics.
That's just all the Discraft ones, like all the different
put them
adjectives
in alphabetical order.
And just scramble them. Yeah, that's basically it. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about some chaos in the disc golf world.
I can't wait to hear it.
First thing we're going to talk about is whatever is going on with Dynamic Discs / House of Discs. So two things to mention.
You're about to get raw reaction from me.
Number one.
What?
Obviously, there's been some, like, people have heard the rumors about some layoffs. Well, a big one that came through was Disc Golf Weekly. Anthony, Disc Golf Weekly, for those of you who don't know him, he posted a video. He was like one of the OG disc golf YouTubers way back in the day. I watched his content. Like, there just wasn't a lot of people doing it. He did some great, I mean, he did disc reviews I would watch primarily from him. But great YouTuber. And then he got picked up by Dynamic Disc like 8 years ago. And that was like a big deal. I remember being like, wow, like this guy I watched, like he's working in disc golf. That's so cool. Cause 8 years ago, it was 2016. So this is pre like disc golf really booming. And worked there for a long time. And then he got laid off as part of the layoffs that have been happening. Posted a long video about that where basically like they had told him that he wasn't going to be part of these cuts and he was going to be part of the plan, and then they just couldn't make it work. Basically, it was really sad. Like it was such an unfortunate video, and it sounds like he's stepping away from disc golf, and like he's got a family to provide for, and like a mortgage, and like it's really a sad situation going on over there. But something like it is like chaos and Armageddon over there, because then the next thing we hear is we had a guy, I won't name any names just to be careful. We had a guy who was walking alongside Matty O during one of the rounds of USDGC, and they were on 17, and I think Matty O.
Oh, we're gonna say this. Okay,
I
like it.
Oh yeah. I mean, he said it out in the air.
That's true.
It wasn't like
it in public.
It wasn't like a hey man,
don't tell anybody. He just said it.
Yeah, Matty O was walking down the fairway and basically talking about how he was super stressed out, and like ended up and this guy was like, what do you mean, like you're having a decent round? And he like ended up being like something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, like, no, like I don't know where I'm going to end up next year. Like,
he said like I don't even know where I'm going to end up.
If people knew how bad it was going on right now, like basically alluding to it is a giant building on fire situation with the trilogy companies. And the crazy thing about this is obviously everybody knows, like maybe like a month ago, I forget who it was, but basically a post or a press release was made basically talking about House of Disc and all this different moving things around. And to me, it sounded like there's being budget cuts. Like some of these investors are pulling out or stepping away a little bit. Clearly, there's been some removal of funds because there's all these cuts happening and people are stressed out. The crazy thing about this is you've got, I mean, huge players under the payrolls of these companies. These are big companies. Like, talk about like Ganon Burr, the future of disc golf right now. Yeah. Remember, Dynamic Discs, or Discmania rather, is under House of Discs. Obviously, Ricky Wysocki as well. And it just sounds like there's a lot of uncertainty in that company. We don't know anything further than that. But when you think about how many different brands, because now you have Castablast, Discmania, Dynamic Disc, Latitude 64, and Westside. And it's tough to know like how much those companies are their own entities versus separate, because obviously you have Dynamic having to make some cut. Matty O's on Team Westside. He's stressed out. We haven't heard anything from these other companies because you feel like Latitude, of those companies, you would feel like Latitude typically is the big dog. But then like Discmania, like how are their sales doing? I don't know. Like it's just crazy to think about the possibilities of like, since you do have all these companies under the same management, would we see some kind of merger of some of these brands? Like, are all of a sudden are certain molds going to be transferred over players? Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is it just like continues to sound more and more bad. And
I would love to hear details.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I honestly, I wanted to find some players. I didn't get a chance to at USDGC that maybe have like some insider info and really get a scoop, but I don't know, man. Like, we have the off season. I think this year is going to be really eerie because I think there is.
Well, not even a mention that was made was Kristen. Also, like,
right, exactly.
Also, the largest FPO player.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And like some of these players only have a year left on their contract that made a ton of money. It's just like if House of Disc were to really dissipate or go away, all of a sudden there is a lot less landing spots.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot less companies.
And the bummer is a lot less competition too.
Exactly.
So we might see some real good budget buys on some good players.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this offseason, like I said, we're gonna probably hopefully see some exciting things.
Yeah.
Some player movement, but I think we may also see a lot of sad things.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. It's never fun. I think the boom that happened in disc golf a few years ago, I think a lot of companies maybe overestimated that. And something crazy going on behind us right now. And I think that right now the repercussions of that are being seen. So we're just going to have to see what happens as time moves on. That's really all we can do. We obviously aren't on the inside of all that. So,
Trevor, this is semi-related, but I was in a Ace Hardware in Mint Hill.
Don't tell me they're going
outside of Charlotte. No. Okay. No. I was in there with my dad. And we're walking around looking at chainsaws and lawnmowers, and then I turn around and I see a little end cap of dynamic discs.
They made it all the way to Ace Hardware.
In Ace Hardware. Isn't that fun?
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Maybe that's what got them in trouble.
It's
maybe freaking Husqvarna got a hold of their discs and was like, we could be making these.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Speaking of other troublesome things in the disc golf world, we're talking about the PDGA disciplinary stuff going on right now. So basically what this kind of stems from, there's a Reddit post where I think a guy was basically looking to find the J-Ray suspension. This is the guy who we talked about, like the big embezzlement thing that happened, and was just looking to see if because you can see the like PDGA disciplinary list basically on their website. I believe it's that simple,
or lack thereof.
So Jonathan Ray, he got a Class B offense and a 12-month suspension and 12-month probation. And that's where that sits right now, which that's like the least notable thing of this. Like, I mean, I guess it's interesting that he only got a 12-month suspension, but maybe they're waiting for all the details to come out. Whatever. Yeah. I'm not taking a lot from that. What was interesting is also on this list was Eric Oakley with a 12-month probation and Johnny McRae with a 9-month probation. So then that led people to be like, whoa, those are other two names we know. Like,
what the heck?
Like, what's going on with those two? And Eric Oakley actually posted a response to this. This is what Eric Oakley said via Instagram on his probation. I wanted to clear the air on the ongoing process in regarding to the PDGA disciplinary committee. I received an email stating I've been put on a 12-month probation for, quote, courtesy violations, parentheses, called and uncalled. Interesting. I have no further information than that. I have cooperated fully, but I want to make it clear that the only documented warning I have this year is one that I called on myself. There have been no other official warnings that I'm aware of. I say this simply to clear up any rumors that have been started and not to excuse my past actions. I'm hopeful with diligent work on myself I can find a pathway to a better approach to disc golf. I will be appealing this ruling. So basically, if you remember earlier in the year, Eric Oakley got into a little bit of strife in the community because I guess I don't think he was acting out towards other players. Mostly he was frustrated with himself during an event. And I think he ended up calling, like, I guess he called the warning on himself in some extent. I don't know exactly how that all went down, but it popped up. Like, nobody says anything, and then all of a sudden he just pops up on this probation thing. And so I think that was interesting, almost like a non-confrontational way of just like throwing him on the list. It's almost like they were sitting around like, who else should be on this list right now? I don't remember Eric did that thing earlier. Let's toss him on here too. Like, that's kind of what that felt like. And then we got the scoop on the Johnny McRae thing.
Yeah.
So the Johnny McRae one was during
I really hope this doesn't hurt my feelings because I love Johnny.
The Tim Selinsky Masters tournament, and it basically was, I think it was him and Barry in a playoff. But he calls Barry Schultz on there's video of this, by the way. You can look through Reddit and find all this stuff.
You were saying he calls Barry Schultz on but I only heard he calls Barry Schultz. And I thought you were about to say like some name that he called him.
No, he calls Barry Schultz on a foot fault on a shot and is basically looking around for a second. Barry's like, I didn't foot fault. And he's like, yes, you did. He looks back and Robert Leonard is there, but Robert Leonard's like, listen, I'm playing this event. I'm like, I can't have a dog in this fight. Like, he's not the official on the card. Like, he's a competitor. Yeah. Fair enough. The official, the way this situation has been explained to me is the official was Rebecca Duffy of the PDGA, who is like 200 feet back talking to people. And so he goes to her. Obviously, she didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And so he kind of starts freaking out. Frustrating situation, to be fair.
Yeah.
Especially in a playoff. Probably wasn't paying attention. If that's truly how it all went down, and starts basically, saying that like if you let him get away with this, like I'm walking off the course. Like definitely getting pretty worked up over it. And you can find the whole video. I think Barry Schultz tries to call him a cheater at one point because he starts going like, I'm not a cheater. Just some good old-fashioned disc golf drama.
The Johnny Barry beef is off the rails.
Just crazy stuff. But yeah, there's a video of that floating around somewhere. You can find it all on Reddit. It's probably trending on Reddit in the disc golf page. But yeah, that's how Johnny McRae ended up there. So just your little update from
Trevor, we probably should get ahead of this.
What's that?
Before people like start talking about it.
Us on the list as well.
But like that. But also like officially, are we team Bradley or Lucky? We should probably get ahead of it.
I haven't decided yet.
yet.
Yeah, it's still up in the air.
Okay.
Still up in the air.
We had to get ahead. I think we have to get ahead of it.
What matters is we're both team flats.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Team flats all day.
Listen, I actually want to hear you guys in the comments on this. So we started a new war, which we are calling Team Flats versus Team Nubs. Yeah, this video
has it even come out yet?
Well, we started a war that's Team Flats versus Team Nubs, and that basically is talking about the basket. Because we did talk about on Grip Locked or in a video at some point about could you weld the basket together without having the overlapping nub?
Yes.
I'll let Hunter give his argument next week because he's not here right now. I don't want to be unfair. I'll only speak on my side of things.
Which we agree on this.
We are both
I
team flats.
agree.
So my point is, if you could make the basket without the nub, like you should. Because basically by having the nub, you are creating an inconsistent break, essentially.
Or reaction, depending on where you land.
Depending on where you are in the basket, you can be putting in a different spacing of the nubs. Listen, I don't want to be mean to Hunter, but it doesn't really sound like there's a counter argument. I wonder if he even believes in it. Like here's what I want to. Here's what I'll just say. I guess is there anybody who actually can find it other than structural integrity of the basket? Because if that's the case, then whatever, that's fine.
There's no structural integrity reason why I would have to wrap around the top.
Can you find an argument that is just related to disc golf and how it's played and the performance and the consistency of the basket? Can you find an argument for the nubs in that realm?
So we just think that if it was just a flat surface across the top, no matter where you land, no matter where you throw, you have the same opportunity of reaction off the top of the cage because it's a consistent surface.
Yeah.
The nubs to me feel like, well, I don't really love that at hole 16 at USDGC. They were like, this hole's like a little bit too easy. Which it's not. That hole is freaking hard. I think that hole is one of the most sneaky holes on that course.
It's hard for us boys who can't just throw forehands 450 feet.
It's hard for us boys that can't throw forehands 450 feet or can't throw 450-foot dead straight backhands that don't fade at all.
Yeah.
So that hole is sneaky, but they're like, that's a little too easy. Let's just throw some shrubs in front of the basket. It's the same thing because that is now unfair to players because depending on where you happen to land, you throw it there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with this take, to be clear.
You don't think that that's a little bit silly?
No, because you can just know, okay, I want to land short or I want to land left or right. Putting is different. And because
if you had trees, if you had trees completely around the basket, almost touching the basket, completely around it, okay? Mm-hmm. You don't think that that'd be like...
But they don't.
I know, but I'm just saying in the sense of if you land a foot right here, you're good. A foot right here, you're in front of a tree, and it's for no real natural reason.
Well, it's to defend the hole. The hole would be too easy. I don't have a problem with those trees. Now, I will say this: if you make the spacing too close to where it feels less like there's a chance to actually control. Like, I think when you use those obstacles, you need to make pretty clear areas that are better to land than others. But I think that hole provides that.
Yeah.
I think most of the time you get in a bad spot is when you're too far left.
I guess what it does is it guards the basket from, like, if you're landing on the easy side, which is the left side. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about strictly from where you land putting-wise, but it only guards the left side. There's no trees on the right side. So
the basket nubs
that makes sense.
They're literally inches apart. So, like, you can't. I mean, imagine being like, I'm going to lay this up to 12 feet 3 inches because then I'll be centered on the nubs.
Yeah.
So we're team flats. Comment down below if you're team flats or team nubs or team trees.
Well, I don't. We gotta let Hunter give his argument.
I would like the audience to try to I know that Hunter he said some things that I don't know he quite believes. because he wanted to jump on Team Nubs because he saw we were on the other side.
Yeah.
But I'll be curious, like, he's a crafty guy. So I'll be curious to see if he can come up with something that's even believable.
I'm sure that he can come up with a
because the first few things he was throwing out in the video that hasn't come out yet were pretty shocking. Something along
like you definitely
but
don't
he was, but he was like half laughing when he was saying it. Like he didn't, he didn't believe it. So if you're Team Nubs, basically, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah.
All right, there it is. That we won't do a Silas Selects because Hunter's not here. We also, I guess, we'll end up finishing the top 10, doing our final top 10 of the year whenever Hunter is back after the Tour Championship. We are going to do a Tour Championship preview, so keep an eye out for that later this week. And thanks for watching this episode of Grip Locked. Once again, shout out to everybody we met at USDGC. It was a blast. Study about next year, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully Hunter will have his voice then, similar to the movie The Little Mermaid.
Amen to that. Yeah, I forgot about that movie.
And that'll be that.